I'm very proud to have been part of television in that era.
John Schneider lost more than just a TV show when networks banned the General Lee. The merchandise deals disappeared overnight. His royalty checks stopped coming. One personal car worth $200,000 got destroyed, but that wasn't even the worst part. He had to sell a signed General Lee hood for $25,000 just to pay bills. Then Amazon started talking about removing the show completely. Schneider launched a petition that got 50,000 signatures. But the real fight was just beginning. What he said about free speech versus hate symbols split the country in half. John Richard Schneider was born on April 8, 1960, in Mount Kisco, New York, a quiet town about 45 miles north of Manhattan. His parents, Shirley and Jack Schneider, worked in civil service and stayed close to his daily life. Even as a little kid, he was not just watching the world, he was trying to perform in it. When he was 5, he bought a simple magic kit from a local hobby shop for $5 and started doing backyard shows for neighbors. It was small and homemade, but it lit something up in him. He liked the feeling of people looking his way, waiting for the next trick, and then reacting when it worked. That little scarf illusion kit became his first stage, and he kept building from there. By 1968, when he was 8, he stepped into real theater for the first time. He got a role as a munchkin in a community theater production of The Wizard of Oz in New York City. He rehearsed around 20 hours a week after school, and he earned $10 per performance. It was not the money that mattered most. It was the rhythm of rehearsing, waiting in the wings, hearing applause, and feeling like he belonged to something bigger than his own neighborhood. Then life shifted in a way he could not control. When John was 10, his parents divorced. The home that had felt steady suddenly felt split, and he felt alone inside it. He started looking for comfort in places that could not leave him, and television became that place. He got pulled into westerns, especially Bonanza, which ran from 1959 to 1973. Sitting in front of the screen every week became his quiet habit. In his bedroom, he would copy the gunfights with a toy revolver and act like a cowboy hero. Those stories gave him a place to hide and a future to dream about. The family themes, the adventure, the wide-open feeling of the West all worked on him slowly, shaping what he wanted to be. In 1974, when he was 14, another big change arrived. His mother remarried and moved the family to Atlanta, Georgia. A New York kid landing in the South could have felt lost, but John found a door that was already open for him. He went to North Springs High School and joined the drama club fast. Theater became the bridge between who he was and where he was now. He performed in the school's Grease production and played Danny Zuko. To fit in and to make the role feel real, he worked on Southern accents and learned how to move in a new culture without losing himself. That mix of acting and adapting started to sharpen him. He was not just learning lines anymore. He was learning how to become someone else on command. By 15, he was hustling for the dream with the kind of energy that only a teenager who really wants something can carry. He delivered newspapers on his bike to earn money for acting classes at a local community theater. He did not treat those classes like a hobby. He pushed for real roles and landed a starring part in Our Town. In 1975, his work there won the Georgia District Youth Award for Best Dramatic Performance. That award hit him like proof. It told him that this was not just a dream he liked, it was something he could chase and maybe catch. At 16, he turned toward music too. He recorded his first demo tape in a garage studio in Atlanta with a borrowed guitar. He sang country covers of Hank Williams songs like Lovesick Blues and Hey, Good Lookin'. Then he walked those tapes into radio stations, hoping someone would say yes. Instead, he got rejected 12 times. People told him he was too young or that he did not have star power. None of that stopped him. He kept showing up until one small station, WQXI, finally played a snippet. It was a tiny moment, but to him it felt huge. After all those shut doors, even a crack of light mattered. He learned that you could take hits and still keep moving if the goal felt real enough. In 1977, at 17, he went even bigger. He drove cross-country from Atlanta to Los Angeles for pilot season in a beat-up Ford, sleeping on friends' couches and stretching his money with cheap diner meals. He was chasing any way into the business. That push landed him an uncredited extra role as a truck stop patron in Smokey and the Bandit. The shoot was long, about 12 hours, and he earned $50. The money was small, yet to him, it felt like the first true paycheck from the world he wanted. Being near real sets and real actors gave him a taste of how wild and risky the work could be. And it also showed him he was close enough to touch it. Back in Georgia, he kept balancing school and performance like his life depended on it. He took voice lessons, did local gigs, and even built a strange but fun act where he mixed magic with singing. At county fairs, he would sing a country tune and pull a rabbit from a top hat in the same moment, getting crowds of around 200 people laughing and clapping. Those shows were not just a stunt. They trained him to hold attention, to feel timing, and to not freeze under eyes. By the time he graduated in 1978, he had a small Atlanta agent who started getting him booked. He did 3 TV commercials, including ads for Georgia Peaches and Coca-Cola. Each one paid $300, so he made $900 total. He learned to use a fake Southern drawl on command, tweaking his voice to fit what the market wanted. Every shoot forced him to adapt quickly, sometimes with last-minute script changes. That taught him a quiet professional skill: how to stay calm, take direction, and deliver. All of that was building toward the moment that changed everything. In early 1979, when he was 18, he saw a trade ad for a new show looking for a 25-year-old Georgian redneck. John was not that on paper. He was younger, and he was from New York, so he decided to play the biggest role of his life before he even had the job. He showed up to the audition with stubble, a country hat, chewing tobacco, and holding a beer can, acting like he had lived his whole life in the South. He laid on a thick accent and told wild rural stories that made him sound exactly like what they wanted. It worked so well that he beat out about 300 other hopefuls and won the role of Bo Duke on the Dukes of Hazzard. To seal the image, he also claimed he had studied at the Georgia School of High Performance Driving, even though that school did not exist. When the audition turned to car skill, he talked like a guy who had driven hard all his life. During the tryout, he slid across a prop car hood in a quick motion that felt natural to him. That move became the famous Duke slide, repeated again and again on the show. A lie had turned into a signature, and a quick instinct had turned into history. On March 15, 1979, he signed his first major contract for the series at $5,000 per episode. He was still carrying the secret of his age and his background, knowing that if anyone dug deep enough, it could all fall apart. But the gamble held, and the show moved forward. When filming started in April 1979 in California, he threw himself into the work right away. In his first scene, he had to do a fence jump in jeans, and he twisted his ankle on the landing. He pushed through anyway, finishing the scene and earning respect on set for how hard he was willing to go. John Schneider was only 19 when he climbed behind the wheel of the General Lee for the first season of the Dukes of Hazzard in 1979, and the crew quickly learned there was something different about him. Most actors treated stunts with caution. Schneider treated them like a challenge. In the third episode, Days of Shine, he took a real 1969 Dodge Charger, helped weld the roll cage with his own hands, and sent it flying off a 15-foot ramp over a pond. He had never been trained as a stunt driver. He just gripped the wheel and trusted his instinct. The car slammed down so hard the chassis twisted, and the crew realized they would need more cars than they had planned. Some episodes burned through as many as 14 Chargers, because jumps destroyed almost every one of them. During the opening credits, the famous jump reached 16 feet in height, and the car flew 82 feet before it was totaled. Schneider did not perform every extreme jump, but the ones he did brought a raw energy that made Bo Duke feel real. The General Lee became more than a car to him. Off-set, he bought his own orange Charger and called it Little Bo Peep. On empty back roads, he pushed it up to 140 miles per hour, just to feel how the car handled in ways he could take back to the show. He restored another Charger with a 426 Hemi engine and treated it like a trophy. At one point, a bidder offered almost $10 million for it at auction. But the bid turned out to be a prank, and the car stayed with him. Years later, a tree crushed that same car during Hurricane Ida. Losing it felt like losing a part of himself. He had welded roll cages, repaired dents, and spent long nights with these machines. That connection gave every scene its spark. When the cameras stopped rolling, Schneider and Tom Wopat kept the rhythm going. During breaks, they formed a small country group they called the Duke Boys Band. They played at cast parties, bars, and charity events, passing a guitar back and forth like brothers. In 1980, after a break in Georgia, they wrote a song together called Hazzard Highway. It never came out officially, but it stayed with them, and they performed it at reunions for years. Fans loved seeing the two of them on stage, singing Good Old Boys and laughing like they were back in Hazzard County. Their music kept the friendships alive long after scenes wrapped. Not every moment on set was light. One night in 1981, during the shoot for episode 45, a fan slipped past security holding something that looked like a gun. Without thinking, Schneider sprinted forward and tackled him straight into a hay bale. Security rushed in and arrested the man, but the whole set froze at how fast Schneider reacted. Later he joked it was Bo Duke justice, but the danger was real. The gun was fake, but no one knew that in the moment. It became one of the most shocking behind-the-scenes stories and a reminder of how strange and risky fame could be. By the end of Season 3, the show had exploded. Fan mail shot up by 500%, and Schneider started receiving more than 2,000 letters every week. Some fans asked him to draw sketches of the General Lee, and he tried to answer as many as he could. When CBS saw the demand, his salary doubled to $10,000 per episode. The attention also gave him leverage a year later, when he and Tom Wopat clashed with the studio over money tied to merchandise. But before that storm arrived, the show gave him a surprising chance in music. Through 1981, Schneider spent long days filming and long nights dreaming about recording. One weekend, he drove straight to Nashville after shooting and checked into a tiny demo studio to lay down a song he had written called Ain't You Glad? He played guitar for 10 hours without stopping. His voice was rough from exhaustion, but something about the take felt honest. Producer Mike Curb heard the demo by accident and was stunned by the grit in Schneider's voice. The next day, he offered him a deal with Scott Brothers Records. By the end of the year, Schneider released Now or Never and watched it climb to number 8 on the country charts. It proved he was not just a TV star singing for fun. He had something real. 3 years later, in 1984, he signed with MCA Nashville. This was a heavyweight label, and he wanted to earn his place. He co-produced parts of his album Too Good to Stop Now, and pushed himself through a 48-hour recording marathon. He barely slept. When he finished his first single, "I've Been Around Enough to Know," he sent it to radio stations across the country. 15 stations said no. He kept calling, kept sending tapes, and kept trying smaller markets until one station in Shreveport finally gave him a chance. Within weeks, the song hit #1 on the country charts and stayed there for 2 weeks. By the time the album reached 500,000 sales, he had become a genuine crossover success with a foot in 2 worlds. Touring followed. In 1985, he packed venues with crowds of more than 5,000 fans and played shows from Tennessee to Texas. But on the way to a major show, disaster struck. The equipment truck carrying his band's instruments crashed on the highway, destroying more than $20,000 worth of gear. The band panicked, but Schneider stayed calm. He called friends across the industry and borrowed whatever he could. One country star lent him his favorite Fender Telecaster. That night, Schneider walked on stage with borrowed gear and delivered one of his strongest shows. Fans later said they could feel the determination in every note. His next big step came in 1986 when he released "A Memory Like You." It debuted at #1 on the country charts. During a special concert in Nashville, he invited Johnny Cash to join him for a performance. Cash played his signature guitar, and the two shared the stage with ease. After the show, they traded custom dusters as a sign of respect, one marked with the General Lee emblem, and the other with embroidered eagles. The concert was recorded and turned into a limited vinyl that collectors still hunt for today. By 1987, his schedule reached its peak. He filmed 30 episodes of Dukes of Hazzard, while performing 50 concerts in the same year, and earned more than $1 million. The pressure caught up with him. After a pair of shows in Atlanta and Nashville, his voice gave out completely. Doctors ordered a 2-month break. During that time, he traveled to Colorado to learn from a legendary yodeling coach who helped him rebuild his voice from the ground up. When he returned, he sang with more control and confidence than before, and audiences heard the difference. Then came the moment that changed television history. In February 1982, right after Season 4, Episode 13, Schneider and Wopat walked off the set. The General Lee toy alone had sold 1 million units, and neither actor was receiving a share of the money. Schneider confronted the producers in a heated 2-hour meeting and demanded a fair deal. Catherine Bach supported them quietly, but stayed on the show. Warner Brothers reacted by replacing the pair with 2 new cousins named Coy and Vance. Fans were furious. Ratings dropped almost 20% within weeks, and critics called the new characters empty copies. Advertisers complained. CBS panicked. The network offered Schneider and Wopat a 40% raise and a 5% share of merchandise royalties. Schneider watched all of this from Atlanta and refused to return until the deal was official. The fight drained him financially. During the 3-month standoff, he had to pawn his gold Dukes of Hazzard watch for $5,000 just to pay his bills. When the royalty deal finally came through, his first check was $50,000. He walked straight back to the pawn shop and got the watch. It became a symbol of how far he was willing to go to stand up for what he earned. When Schneider and Wopat returned for the Season 5 premiere in October 1982, the studio agreed to let Schneider shape part of the script. He asked for a monologue where Bo Duke talked about fighting for what is yours. It was inspired directly by the walkout. Fans noticed the quiet message and loved it. The moment set new expectations for actors who wanted fair contracts on other shows. Cheers was one of the first to follow that example. John Schneider felt the ground shift under his feet the moment the Dukes of Hazzard ended in February 1985. One day, he was Bo Duke, a superstar in an orange Charger. and the next, he was standing in silence, waiting for the phone to ring. His first big chance came 2 years later, when he took the role of Ray in the 1987 TV movie Christmas Comes to Willow Creek. The set was nothing like the warm glow of Hazzard County. He was in Dawson City, Yukon, surrounded by white snow, frozen air, and temperatures that dropped to 20 below zero. He followed a strict diet to look worn down and lost 15 pounds during filming. The movie aired on December 20th, 1987, and he later said that the cold pushed him to dig deeper into a character than he had ever done before. By 1989, he was fighting to escape the shadow of Bo Duke. He played a detective in The Rawhide Trail, a mini-series that barely lasted 2 episodes before vanishing from the ratings. It was a painful reminder that he was being boxed into a Southern charm image he could not shake off. He spent the next few years auditioning for nearly 50 pilots, even trying out for MacGyver, only to watch the role go to Richard Dean Anderson. He said later that every rejection felt like he was stuck in the same outfit, even when he tried to change it. Then came a moment nobody saw coming. In 1990, instead of waiting for Hollywood to decide his fate, John Schneider built John Schneider Studios with his own savings. Banks refused to lend him a dime, saying his hillbilly image made him too risky, so he invested $100,000 of his own money. He built a sound stage and post-production rooms on his own Louisiana property. It was bold. It was risky. It was a man taking his career out of Hollywood's hands and reshaping it on open Southern land. In 1992, his heart led him back to music. He recorded Come Morning in a small home studio during one of the hardest personal periods of his life. His marriage to Ellie Castle began to fall apart around this time, and the songs carried that weight. When the album reached number 15 on the Billboard country charts, it felt like a quiet victory, proof that even in turmoil he could still reach people who needed his voice. By 1995, he stepped behind the camera to direct an episode of the Highway to Heaven reboot. He brought back some of his old Dukes crew for the job, wanting familiar hands around him. But stunt crashes wrecked the budget and forced him to personally pay $20,000 out of his own pocket to keep the episode alive. It aired in the end, but he walked away with a new understanding that directing sometimes meant burning money for the sake of a story. Everything changed in 2001 when he walked into an audition room for Smallville. More than 100 actors had tried out for Jonathan Kent, but when Schneider began improvising a fatherly speech right there on the farm set, the room went quiet. The producers cast him instantly. That choice carried him through 217 episodes over 10 seasons, turning him into one of the show's emotional anchors even as cast members came and went. It became one of the most important roles of his life, and he earned it by trusting one moment of instinct. He later directed 4 episodes of the show, and in the Season 3 episode Legacy, he slipped in a piece of Superman history inspired by real interviews with Jerry Siegel's family. It was a small rewrite, but it deepened the story, and fans noticed. It felt like Schneider had reached back to the earliest days of Superman and folded them gently into modern television. But in 2005, trouble hit. The producers wanted to kill off Jonathan Kent in Season 5. Schneider fought the idea. He argued, he pushed back, and he even threatened to walk away. Eventually, he agreed to stay, but only if the death was filmed in a real Kansas cornfield. The tribute episode became one of the most emotional moments in the entire series. Fans knew it mattered. They could feel the weight he poured into it. In 2006, he took a break from hero roles and stepped into darkness on CSI Miami as a corrupt sheriff. His performance was so sharp that it earned him an Emmy nomination for Outstanding Guest Actor in a Drama Series, something almost unheard of for a 2-episode appearance. It surprised audiences who thought they knew him. Suddenly, he was not just the wholesome dad or the charming Duke. He could be dangerous too. When Smallville ended in 2011, his net worth sat at around $4 million, built from years of steady roles and residual checks. Yet fans were stunned when he sold a signed General Lee hood for $25,000 to help fund his Louisiana ranch. Parting with such an iconic piece shocked people. It showed he valued real life more than memorabilia, and that he was always ready to put the past to work for the future. Then came a storm that no fan controversy could match. In July 2015, after the Charleston church shooting, TV Land removed Dukes of Hazzard reruns because of the Confederate flag on the General Lee. Warner Brothers stopped licensing all merchandise tied to the flag, shutting down sales tied to more than 300 episodes and countless model cars. Schneider went straight to Twitter, furious. He said they were erasing history and insisted the show represented fun, family, and Southern heart. His words went viral. It became a national debate, fueled further by South Carolina, removing the Confederate flag from its Capitol grounds that same month. Pop culture, politics, and pain collided all at once. The loss of licensing also cost Schneider a chunk of royalties, so he launched a petition. More than 50,000 fans signed. He told Fox that the car was never a hate symbol, and that fans had watched the show for decades without linking it to racism. The issue became deeply personal for him, both emotionally and financially. The debate returned in June 2020 during nationwide protests after George Floyd's murder. Amazon considered pulling the show from streaming. Schneider fired back in interviews, saying he had never once heard a complaint from a black fan, and that removing the show would create more division. NASCAR had just banned Confederate flags from its races, and the conversation reached a fever pitch. The fate of the entire 7-season series hung in the balance, while the country argued over what symbols should mean. A year later, in August 2021, Hurricane Ida tore through Louisiana. One of Schneider's barns collapsed and destroyed a personal General Lee worth $200,000. He posted the crushed orange Charger on Facebook, the flag still visible on its roof. Even then, he smiled through the loss and said, "She'll jump again." The storm damaged his house and studio too. It was a blow that hit his life and his legacy at the same time. By 2025, he began speaking openly about why the fight over the General Lee mattered to him. He said it was about free speech, not about defending the Confederacy. He called the controversy a war on American history and warned that censoring old symbols was dangerous. He pointed to the long list of fans from every background who loved the show. It became a personal stand, something he felt he needed to protect beyond nostalgia or money. Even with all the conflict around him, Schneider kept building. On April 8, 2018, he celebrated his 58th birthday with a jump that looked like it came out of his Duke days. He sent a real General Lee flying over a 75-foot ramp at his Louisiana studio, lifting nearly 30 feet into the air while crowds cheered. It happened during Bo's Extravaganza, a fan event that pulled hundreds of people together. It was the kind of moment that reminded everyone why they fell in love with Bo Duke in the first place. During his time on the Haves and the Have-Nots, from 2013 to 2021, he delivered more than 500 scenes filled with fire and emotion. Tyler Perry praised his raw intensity and the way he could switch from calm to explosive in a single breath. Fans buzzed online every time Jim Cryer had a meltdown or showdown. Schneider held his own in an ensemble full of strong actors, showing he could take over a scene without ever raising his voice. His personal life fell apart in 2014 after divorcing Elvira Castle following 21 years of marriage. The financial fallout pushed him toward bankruptcy. Court battles over alimony led to community service and public frustration. But instead of disappearing, he opened a YouTube channel. He posted music covers, studio updates, and personal stories. Within days, the channel jumped to 16,000 subscribers. It became his lifeline, proof that even when life burns things to ash, you can build again with whatever pieces you have left.